Greetings, traveler. Welcome to my campfire. If you've watched my previous videos, then you've already guessed from the thumbnail that today I'm doing something a little different. As I said in my first video, my goal with this channel is to talk about stories of all kinds, so today I'm going to take a break from my gaming group's adventures with the Dragon Heist to talk about a movie that I think deserves more love at the box office before it's too late. As usual, I'm a bit behind the breaking news, but last week I went to the theater to see Fall Guy, so I want to give you a spoiler-free review to explain why I think a lot of movie fans should go see this movie. So first off, let me put my cards on the table. I'm still not sold on Ryan Gosling. I have no recollection of him in Remember the Titans or any of his credits before that, and the only thing I saw him in this millennium was the new Blade Runner, and whatever you may have thought of that film, that sort of stoic, detached nature of the protagonist didn't give Gosling much opportunity to showcase whatever talents he may have. At least that's my recollection now, which I admit may be colored by having been bored out of my mind. I know it's sacrilege, but I had the same experience with the original Blade Runner. That's a topic for another video. In any case, though, Fall Guy seems to represent another step in Gosling's efforts to broaden his appeal in this post-Notebook phase of his career. And in this case, I think it works. He comes across as tough, funny, vulnerable when needed. It's a good balance for this action comedy that has a strong romantic plot driver. Also, the TV series that this movie used as inspiration was before my time, and it's not one that I ever came across in reruns or sought out in streaming, so I can't give any comment on how well the film represents its source material. Okay, taking a step back to look at the movie as a whole, my overall review is really simple. It's a fun movie. I was entertained. In a world where, I guess maybe I should have opened that with the trailer voice. In a world where Hollywood seems to be, you get the point. But where Hollywood seems to be driving a lot of, dark, gritty, and frankly, downright depressing movies, and/or films with loads of social commentary, it's really refreshing to go out to the theater and sit down to a flick that's just a good time, a little escape from the cares of the real world. I tend to think that's the image of storytelling at its best. Check the description for a link to a little piece I wrote explaining why. Anyway, I think the bottom line here is that the film delivers on its premise. Lots of cool, over-the-top stunts, good humor, not bust-a-gut laughs, but an action movie-appropriate level of funny. It kept me amused without breaking the tension. Quick aside, that's a huge complaint I have with the last 10 years' worth of Marvel movies. Seems like it's been increasing ever since the first Guardians of the Galaxy, this drive to be just so jokey. Like every moment of tension just has to be shattered by a hard cut to a joke, and it's kind of a slap in the face to all of us who actually cared about the story. Fall Guy is humorous throughout the action scenes, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. In fact, there's one particular scene that offers a really brief but very intentional and very hard tonal shift, and in my opinion it hits perfectly. It's really, in some sense, the dramatic climax of the film, despite the plot and action scenes hitting their peak a little bit later. That might sound odd or like broken storytelling to some of you. Sadly, I can't defend the choice without giving too much away. All I can say is that for me, it worked. So well, in fact, I think film students should look at it as an example of how to achieve that temporary pivot in tension and tone and get away with it. Now, it's not a perfect film by any means. The action sequences are flashy and fun and don't overstay their welcome, but a couple of the dramatic scenes, they do go on just a bit too long. Most of the dialogue's nothing special, and Emily Blunt, she does a fine job with the light comedy role, but there's no doubt she's underutilized in this script. I was happily rooting for the protagonists by the end, but that empathy was delayed longer than it should have been, and I was probably halfway through the movie before I really cared. The negatives aside, though, there's one more reason I think people should see this movie, and it's the reason I'm making the video. After all, I see a lot of movies, and I don't review most of them. Generally, the marketing is good enough as an indicator of what the movie will deliver, and people can make their own decisions whether or not to give it a try. But Fall Guy has a major element that I think was missing in what little marketing I saw, and that element is this. The movie is an absolute and intentional paean to the work of stunt performers going back to the beginning of film, and I believe that group deserves that love letter. I also think they deserve to see that ode to their efforts at least turn a profit. Honestly, if they made a Fall Guy 2, which doesn't seem likely, I'd probably go see it, since this one gave me a good entertainment return on my ticket dollars, but this movie doesn't need a sequel. Not every film has to be a franchise. But for the sake of the stuntmen and women of the industry, I want to see the movie be successful, even if the opening weeks were financially disappointing. If you're a fan of action films and recognize how those movies require performers to put their safety on the line so you can suspend disbelief and see something real, if you want to see more in-camera practical stunts and less CG, This movie deserves your ticket purchase. Don't just stream it. Grab some friends, find a theater that's still screening it, and actually go to the movies. It's the best way, and maybe the only way, to ensure the kind of movies you want to see can actually still get made. So that's it for me today, travelers. If you want to support the channel, you know the YouTube like, comment, subscribe drill. I'd be honored if you were interested in learning more about me or my work, in which case you can follow any of the links in the video description. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, until we meet again, keep your fire bright.